Howdy everyone. Excuse my 3D printer in the background. It's just making a bit of noise, and if you hear that, yeah, I mean, it's happening. We'll have to deal with it. This is the first game that I've got to play in the event that I covered. I think not my last video, the video previous to that. Whatever the Return to Davros videos, you can find it, you can figure things out. We've had 3 rounds of like movements and stuff, but I haven't been like against anyone at this stage. Man, my back, this all looks real messy. It's not that messy. There's models and there's like hobby stuff there, so it's not just mess. It's like it's actually there for, you know, a somewhat productive reason. Yeah, so basically I haven't had a game the first couple of rounds. I've been wheeling and dealing with some negotiations with people around me and stuff, but I've been from the start, Woodsy and I have been like, nah, we're going for each other, this is going to happen. Woodsy hasn't played, I think, maybe like in probably 2 years. Oh no, it wouldn't have been that long, because he played in some of the teams events with us, but yeah, I don't know how long, but it's been a while for Woodsy to play. Apparently he's been playing chess and 40k for a while like sort of COVID was screwing everything up and not letting us have live events and all that. So basically this is the first game. I'm recording this before I actually play the game later tonight, just to sort of go over the lists and that. But basically that's about it. I mean, not all that much has happened in the event. Other people have fought people. I haven't. I've just been sitting tight and driving my way towards Woodsy. Before we actually had this game, we were a few like tiles away from each other, so moving 1 tile per turn. As soon as we got to the point where we could fight, he sent me a message being like, "Ooh, like, do you want to be real dodgy? And like, even though we've told everyone we're gunning for each other, now start fighting other people to surprise them." And I went, "Hell yeah, man! Like, we'll definitely do that." So obviously I immediately betrayed him because I was never going to not attack him. I will get rid of my camera just so we can see this list properly. My list is basically the same as in my previous video, so if you want more info on that, just go over there. The main differences is I've given my BSB Legion standard because I've realised in a couple of practice games that he spends a bit more time in the skeletons than I initially anticipated he would. And I've also got an Adept of Evoc rather than an Apprentice. So he's lost his binding scroll, but he's become an Adept. And I've got a Ritual Altar, which is a thing from the Cultist book, and I don't really know how that works. Basically, the way I got it is just because depending on what tiles you take, sometimes they can mean something. And in this case, I got a Ritual Altar. You can see in Woodsy's list, he's actually got some mercenaries, so he's got a unit from Huskal, a unit of Huskals from the Asklander book, and he's got a free giant from the Giant supplement. Those don't cost us any points, but when they're killed, they give up double their victory points, basically. Basically, the Ritual Altar, I think it can choose between Spear of Infinity, Grave Calls, or Hand of Heaven, and it's like a War Machine base. So I think it gets some way to buff its own range if wizards are nearby, but I won't really be doing that, so I probably won't have Grave Calls taken anytime I take this because it's only range 12 for a War Machine base, so I don't see what the point is. And I think it's only move 2, so yeah, like that probably just won't happen. It'll probably just be Hand of Heaven and Spear of Infinity every time I take it. Sometimes I might not take it just because it's giving up like double victory points and it's a War Machine, so it's kind of easy to kill. I'm a little bit undecided if it's actually a good idea. Other than that, though, basically, yeah, list is the same. So I'll bring myself back up so we can all see me. Going through Woodsy's list, he has got a Shamanism Master, who's his general with Crown of Autocracy and Liger's Tongue. He's got a BSB with like the Weapon Master, big name, and the Banner of Gienget. Maybe that's how it's pronounced, I don't know. Big unit of Bruisers, 2 Tribesman Darts, a big unit of Merc Vets, so I respect the shit out of that because they're combat ones. They've got Pennant of the Great Grass Sky, so they'll have Swift Stride. So I reckon the Khan probably goes in there. to give them Banner of Ganget, and with their dev charge and shit, they'll be really, really devastating on the charge. He's got a Chaff Sabertooth. He's got a... Oh, you know what? I reckon this is the wrong list. Let me pause this for a second. Yeah, okay, look. I don't want to re-record that whole start, so we're just going to keep going as though that wasn't a mistake. His list wasn't updated. There was something... I don't know what went on. But anyway, this is his actual list. So we've still got the same Shamanism General. Mostly the same BSB. Mammothide Cloak for a bit of protection. Still big block of bruisers. One of the darts is now bruisers rather than tribesmen. Still big block of merc vets that fight. He switched the banners around so that now the Swift Strider is on the BSB and the Ganget is on the merc vets, probably to give his BSB a little bit more magic item allowance. He's got some trappers, some one unit of, like a single tiger. He's got a cannon, 4 bombardiers, a frost mammoth, a slave giant, and he's still got, in terms of mercs, his Huskarls, and he's got a feudal giant, so like the KOE giant, who I think, essentially, I think the thing with him is that he's got a lance. I have played, so in my, I call them practice games, but really I was just having games with the list. Not so much to practice, but just because I was interested in the list. But 2 of those were against ogres. I think, I mean, maybe his cannon goes off, but I think in general, I've got a pretty good chance of winning this. Mainly because he doesn't have... Oh, his Shaman has magical attacks. That's it. So my my Spectral Hosts will be able to fight basically anything. Maybe they don't want to fight the things that Thunderstomp, but they probably don't give a shit about that either. It'll be hard... Like, if his Thunder Cannon doesn't sort of do really well, it'll be hard for him to kill my General, which is always a good sign. The BSB of mine is going to be really handy because, like, he can go into those bruises on his own and be like, cool, you hit me on 5s and you win me on 4s. Like, I can fight this for quite a while. I've done that, actually, I think, in both the game... No, not in the first game I had against ogres, but definitely in the second game I had against them. I just sent him forward and went, alright, well, I'm going to be here for a while. I'm going to lock you up. But also him in the Skeletons means that if they fight those bruises, the bruises are hitting them on 4s, winning them on 4s. Hitting them on 4s and winning them on 2s still, but rather than hitting them on 3s, which is something that is actually like pretty important for bruises. If you get them +1 to hit, they're much better than when they hit on 4s. Mainly just because they're much more reliable, at least in my experience with them. What else have we got? Like Frost Mammoth, I don't really think I care about. I guess sort of my my Swift Death stuff probably doesn't like the aura, but like I think I can kill it. He's got 2 hunting spears, so I think it's the wrong choice on the Mammoth. I think they should be Ogre Crossbows. I can't think of a single list that the hunting spears are better than Ogre Crossbows on a Frost Mammoth. Yeah, other than that, I mean, like, he's got 2 big blocks that are scary. He's got a little bit of shooting. I'm barely even looking at his mercs, but I mean, Huskarls are pretty decent. I mean, they'll be fine. He's got an extra giant. Yeah, like, honestly, I just think that my count on horror will be pretty handy. I think he'll be able to just sort of scream a bunch of things sort of on the sides to death. I think that he'll have trouble dealing with the speed of my vampire spawn, and the Winged Reapers are such a solid unit if I get them in the right spot. And then, I mean, Mercvets against Skellies is going to be really good, but the Skellies don't matter that much to me. So he's going to have a hard time, in my opinion, nailing down my important things. And I think I should be able to outmaneuver him and set up to do some actual proper damage, like with combo charge and stuff. So I would say that I'm fairly confident in this matchup. one good thing is that he's got the Mammothide Cloak on his BSB. Like, good for him. It means that my count can't really fight him because of the fact that all of my count's attacks are wounding on, like, strength 10 winning against his discipline. But Mammothide Cloak means that I can't be strength 10. So I'll get down to strength 5, which means that since his discipline's good, like, it's anyone's discipline is good enough to be wounded on 6s with the Mammothide Cloak. So that will actually make the Merc Vets harder for me to deal with. But I think my overall plan will be I'm going to try and kill the support units. I may not deal with the Merc Vets if I can avoid it. And yeah, I think I'm going to try and deal with basically everything other than the Merc Vets. So we'll see how it goes. But that is my general plan and vibe for the game. Okay. It's been a couple of weeks, to be honest, since I recorded what you would have just seen. So I don't remember what I said, but I'm pretty sure I said that I was confident. Which we're going to find out. I should not have been. So basically with this game, we rolled up, hold the center, counter thrust, and this stupid map. I won the roll for sides, and I chose the top mainly because I thought I would want the cover against his shooting. But he doesn't really have that much shooting. Like, he's got a unit of bombardiers and a cannon, and the only thing that really cares about his cannon is my count on horror, so I don't think the fields are actually all that much help because he can't benefit from the field. So it's really just the house. But the house and the hill are roughly equivalent in terms of blocking cannon shots. So I think I should have taken the bottom because the space up the top with me trying to get to the center objective was a real problem. Yeah, there's a few problems with my deployment that we'll discuss sort of as we go through the game, but I can't remember exactly what I dropped first, but I do know that I sort of clogged myself up in the middle a bit too much with my early drops, because it's counter thrust, so we have to drop the 3. Yeah, we'll see the problems that caused later on, but there are some pretty obvious problems that some of you might be looking at and going like, that seems dumb. So he got first turn. So I think I'll probably have the first picture from his turn. I don't actually know. We're going to find out. Nope, this is after my turn. Okay, so he like dropped trappers and he trapped some fields that I triggered with my dogs when I went through there. I charged him, I think, with the Ghouls. The Ghouls up here are at a funny angle. And I think that's because they charged the trappers and the trappers ran. I think I also declared a rather long charge with my Phantom Host, which is this unit in the middle here, at his Merc Vets. Because I think I was looking at angles and being like, I can do that so that the Frost Mammoth doesn't see them. Potentially. Maybe I was just... Because they were going to hold the Merc Vets up at least when they charged in. Was a pretty decent theory with a 2-up ward save. Maybe I could have chaffed things. I don't know. I had an idea, and if I got in there, basically it was like, if I hold the Merc Vets up, I can push a bit more aggressively and take that center space. But it was kind of foolish, because when I failed, it actually opened up the flank charge to the Giant, which just seems like a bad option. I've kept my big man hiding, because he didn't have that many good places to go, because I don't want him down the other side of the house down here, because I don't want to fight this whole block, particularly because either the BSB or the Shaman has Mammothide Cloak, and my weapon and my Scream wounds against Discipline, and has strength 10, but that takes it down to strength 5, so they're always going to be winning on 6s, because Discipline's always going to be higher than, 6. Yeah, the other thing that I sort of noticed early in the game that I should have thought about more when I deployed was, I've got my fast things over here. Wing Reaper's more to sort of like flank guard and stuff, because they can't march if they're outside of General's range. but the vampire spawn want to be aggressive and sort of come down and pressure flanks, but they can't really do it, mainly because this is that merc unit of Huskarls with spears. So even if the Frost Mammoth wasn't there, if I charge them, they're going first. So I'm pretty sure what would happen there is that basically the Huskarls would, at worst, kill enough of my Vamp Spawn that I get held up there, and then countercharged by other things, and I lose my Vamp Spawn and don't get any points off him. So I was already sort of sitting there going like, I've sort of stuffed myself up a bit here. The other thing that I have noticed I do a bit with vampires, because I haven't played an undead army before, I get my chaff in dumb positions where they can't march. Like, I've got these dogs over here near the ruins, and they're never going to be able to do anything because they're not near the 18-inch bubble. So I would need to move my general all the way over to let them march. It's just not something that I've figured out and gotten decent at yet, basically. Yeah, let's move on. Yeah. So as we see, this is maybe after his turn, I'm not really sure, but the giant is in the flank of those spectral or phantom hosts, and they reformed probably to see him. They must have, because they've changed their formations. They must have succeeded on their reform. My dogs were in a funny position, we found out, where his Mercvets couldn't charge them because his Nobblers, his Scraplings, when they rallied, even if he'd done them a different way or something, they hadn't rallied. They hadn't rallied at the time. They've rallied now, yeah. So, because charges come before rallies, they hadn't rallied at the time. He couldn't complete because of them. I couldn't finish closing the door to him because they were in the way. So basically, I was unchargeable where I was, which was a bit funny, but I don't really know if it was overly helpful. It was just my chaff didn't die. The problem is this. I think this is still his turn. Yeah, because I don't have my magic. I think this is still his turn. The problem that will come up, and I don't know if it's actually in the next picture, is the fact that those skeletons near the house can't charge the giant because they can't complete. And no, this is his turn, because in my turn, which is probably next. Nope, that's all right. There's a lot that happens in between. So my BSB actually tried to charge out, I think, at the Bombardiers. So BSB, who's just hiding these skellies, tried to charge here. I think he needed a 7 or something, but he didn't make it, and he only went 2 inches out, which, with his little wheel and stuff, meant that the skeletons were in a really annoying spot because they couldn't reform to shift up like further to the sort of north and west, because that would take them within an inch of the BSB. So I've done really dumb things with the positioning of my skeletons there, and half of it comes down to the fact that I picked the top, and I let myself get in this position, so it was pretty dumb. And, like, I mean, eventually those dogs are going to die, and I'm not going to be chaffing those Mercvets, and I don't have any counter charges set up yet, because my Skellies can't charge, my big man's hiding, the Winged Reapers are struggling over there, dealing with the Huskarls and the Frost Mammoth, and the Spawn a little bit the same. This position's probably not the best, because I went through, like, is this, I don't know if it's my, no, yeah, that was the big jump. Okay, ignore me. I went through my whole turn where, like, I moved the dogs up to chaff his Huskarls, then I moved up aggressively there, and I was like, this is fine. And then I realized that I couldn't march with the dogs, and I couldn't get my count over very far either. So, basically, what has happened between now and the next picture is that something must have moved down here, but the important thing is that he was able to actually charge his bruiser block into the dogs and sort of catapulted himself further forward, overran into the spectral host, and put me in a world of pain, as you can see. So the skeletons have had to do basically nothing but turn around and sort of fix themselves up. I finally brought my big man over into the fight. Winged Reapers and the Vampire Spawn, I'm pretty sure, failed charges, which is why the Vampire Spawn are in such a dumb position there, and the Winged Reapers aren't in. I think they were fairly long, like they might have each needed a 9 or something on the dice, so I wasn't overly unlucky that I didn't make them, but that's what their position has come about from, basically. My BSB is down here. He was trying to mess with some of these smaller units, because he was already out on his own. It might have been better to have him in there, because then they can fight these guys a little bit better, but I don't know. I wasn't feeling very good about the game at this point, to be honest, so... and I was getting a bit drunk as well. So, some of these decisions might not be the best. Yeah. Basically, he blows up those dogs, and I think he blows up the chaffing unit of knights here with his bruiser block as well. Yeah. And then we can see that his giant had charged the rear of the spawn, was fighting them. And these are my... Sorry, I've got the tool thing in the way. Normally I'm better with that. These are my charges for the turn. So I'm charging the skellies in. I think, from experience, they might be able to outgrind bruisers if I get good buffs up. But with the 2 characters in there, probably not. But I was in a pretty bad spot at this point anyway, so... in the tournament format, there's no... Well, not really tournament. In the campaign format, there's no point conserving points, so we just went in. Pretty sure these guys got in and then didn't even win the combat against bruisers. BSB might have even failed another charge, to be honest. And I think I also sent the Winged Reapers into the Frost Mammoth this turn. As you can see, I'm sending my big man into Merc Vets, which isn't a great plan. I think he's even got poison. I don't know. I don't know what my plan was there. It didn't say, like, I couldn't charge anything, and I was like, I need to do something because I'm running out of game turns and I can't deal with all these things. I don't know. That feels like such a bad idea. I'm not sure why I did it. Yeah, no, I don't know. It seems to me there would have been a lot of other better decisions that I could have made. Even if I'd positioned this Necromancer a bit better, rather than putting him as far away as possible, I could have potentially charged him in, taken up 2 blokes, and then when I got him in on the same turn, he overlaps, and then I'm only fighting a few of them. I get all my attacks, I wipe out enough Merc Vets, hopefully through Guy on Top's attacks, Scream, and then next round's Guy on Top's attacks that he lives. That's maybe a possibility, but I didn't see that at the time. But seeing that now, I think he's probably blocked by the War Machine, but that's the Ritual Altar. It was fucking useless, this game. Yeah, I think that would have been a plan, but the plan that I did was not good. As you can see, they all got in. And then the next picture might just be my imminent death. No, it's not quite the last one yet. So as you can see, why did I not buff my big guy? Maybe it's because of poison. Man, I don't know what I was doing with half of these decisions. The Winged Reapers killed the Frost Mammoth. I lost a lot of skellies and did like no wounds to his bruiser block. They might have had +1 toughness and the hereditary for ogres. I don't know. Yeah, as you can see down with the bruises, I did 1 wound with my unit of 10 ghouls, and he did 3 to me. So charge flank, wound, with charge flank with a rank, wound, against 3 wounds and a banner. Yeah, we drew. It's not looking good, as you can tell. And the next picture's probably the last. Yeah, so basically the Huskarls and the Giant destroy those Vamp Spawn. The Merc Vets turned around and fucked up the Winged Reapers. And the Skellies just ground down. Oh, and things would have crumbled as well when my big guy died. So, and on the last turn, actually, this is the last picture. But you can see down here who my BSB, who's taken like grape shots and bombardier shots and everything. He's got 1 wound left. I know that what I'm going to try and do in my turn is just regrow him and get him up to full points, even though in all honesty, with the bandings for the points, it wouldn't have mattered. But then those goddamn scrappling trappers, they killed him with throwing weapons. I think that's the last pick, yeah. So, it didn't go well. I lost 18 to 19 1-ish. Yeah, it wasn't a good game. I didn't play it well. What I underestimated in the importance of the matchup. If we go back to the start. So, these two units over here are essentially free units. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not actually certain that I discussed that in the list thingo that I did. So I've got 4,500 points here. If we discount the Ritual Altar, because it was basically pointless. Like, I mean, it's next to channel. Its spells weren't helpful, because its spells are damage, and my list does not really do damage spells. I think it would be much better in a list that had a focus on, like, range damage that it can supplement, whereas at the moment it's like, well, those aren't the spells that I want to cast in my list. They're not the spells that anything else has taken. It doesn't really work well with them. Particularly because Hand of Heaven and just one Demon Hereditary, they're kind of lackluster. They're not that great. But anyway, so essentially if we discount that, which I do because I don't think it's very valuable, we've got 4,500 points up here, and he's got 4,500 points here, and I've got 1,000-ish sitting over here being held at bay by his 800 or so free points. So I think like list to list without the mercenaries, I think regardless of like the shit deployment and stuff, I can do much better, because yes, he sends other things over here to counter them, but there's nothing in his list other than the big blocks that is all that good at countering either of these blokes. So if he doesn't have them and I don't have that, I think my ideas work better. I'm still in a bad position, like with the Skellies particularly, and I chose the wrong side, but I think without those Merc units, the battle is actually a lot more even. My plan works a lot better, but I really underestimated the difference that like 800 extra points has on a 4,500 point game. It sounds obvious when you say it. It sounds obvious when you are like, yeah, he was playing with 5,200 points. You were playing with 4,500. I know that's 700, but I don't actually know how much those things are worth anymore. But it was actually very impactful in this game. And I think in other games, I would be a bit more wary about that. And I kind of dismissed them as like not that great. I realized in game that if I charged them, the Huskars were going to be agility 6. So they're a really good flank guard, which is exactly where he put them. I guess it doesn't matter as much because the Frost Mammoth's there, but theoretically I have ways to deal with the Frost Mammoth in terms of I've got a longer charge range, and rather than charging them, I just charge it. But yeah, like I think, in all honesty, even if we remove the fact that I made pretty significant mistakes, I think I was in a bad spot because these things existed on the board, which is fine. Like it's part of the campaign, it's part of the rules. But it's something that I underestimated. So I'm not sure exactly specifically what I would change. But if I was playing this game again, I would approach it differently tactically. Knowing that those guys are there, I might have tried to be less spread out. One, I think in general I need to be less spread out with vampires because I need my chaff to be able to march. But I think maybe if I had deployed sort of mainly this corner or maybe this corner and used sort of the house as like a... So I've got 2 avenues to go down and he can't... I don't know if that makes sense. In my head it kind of makes sense that that's like sort of protecting my inside flanks and I don't need as much to fill it up, but... Yeah, I don't know, like... Sort of more coming out from the top right corner down this sort of bottom left direction with the things on the left side of the house, and then just sort of south direction with the things on the right side of the house. That pops out as the thing that I probably would change most in this game. Particularly because these units are such good flank guards, but they're not quite as good when they have... Because they're not that fast, they're not quite as good when they're not happy to wait there. So in this matchup, these guys are happy to go like, that's fine. I'm holding at bay 1,000 of your points. So what I'm actually doing now is I'm fighting 3,500 points of yours against 4,500 of mine, which is basically what happened here for most of the game. Whereas if these things had been pressing down and being more scary on the flanks, it would have changed the outcome in the middle because my opponent wouldn't have been able to push so aggressively, I don't think. Yeah, anyway, it didn't go well. I honestly might record a couple of other videos tonight because I've got a few things going on. I've got a few things backed up. But I reckon that is that for this one. So I will catch you on the next one, which might be in 15 minutes for me.